There are the big winners from last night, the NFL honors. Most of them, as expected. Peter and I were just talking off air about Joe Burrow winning Comeback Player of the Year. A lot of people thought it would go to Dak Prescott at the Cowboys.
Or Nick Bosa, really. Nick Bosa could have won it either.
He didn't get a vote.
Yeah.
Some 49ers upset about that. Micah Parsons got all the votes for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Who else?
Or Chase, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Cooper Kupp, Offensive Player of the Year. He got an MVP vote. First MVP vote for a receiver since Randy Moss in '98. Did you vote for him?
No.
Cooper Kupp? Who'd you vote for MVP?
I voted for Aaron Rodgers.
Hub Arkish didn't.
Maybe he was shamed into it at the end, though.
But Aaron Rodgers wins it. He's got 164 MVP votes for his career. That's, I think, third most ever. And
that's a great stat.
Man, that was Shereen Williams wrote that earlier today on PFT.
Wow, who's got the most?
I don't know. I didn't read the
Peyton?
article. Fake news. I don't read that stuff.
You think it would be Peyton?
I don't waste my time reading that crap, as Aaron Rodgers would say. It's probably Peyton because he's won it 5 times, right? He won it 5 times. It would be Peyton. I would guess.
That was 4. Or is it 5?
Peyton's got 5. Rodgers has 4. Brady has 3. Brady could still come back and get a 4th. Rodgers could get a 5th. This is the key. Rodgers, future. Clock is ticking. Let's hear him last night after he got the 4th MVP trophy on his timetable for making a decision about 2022.
Like I said in the last press conference, I'll make a decision in due time and not a ton of time, before give the team plenty of time to, do what they got to do. And, I think that time is coming. What day is today here? It's like the 10th or something. Yeah. So, there'll be a decision in the near future. And, I'm not going to keep a lot of people waiting.
We can just segue right into like old school Westerns, right? He's got the look. The haggard sheriff or the black Bart showing up.
Listen,
this town isn't big enough for the both of us.
I'll tell you what, if Clint Eastwood were a football fan, I have no idea if he is, he's got to hire Aaron Rodgers to play somebody in his last Western ever filmed. Ever.
He embraces that. He's had that look all year long. I saw a separate interview of Aaron Rodgers. I think it was with Taylor Bisciotti of NFL Network after winning the award, and he said he's going to make a decision pretty quick. He's talked to the Packers. He really hasn't had a chance to let it feel like the offseason yet. He's going to take a little time and make a decision pretty quick. He said before he's going to let it be known before free agency. Look, the Packers have to figure out what they're going to do. Other teams have to figure out, are they jumping in on Aaron Rodgers? The quarterback carousel is going to start to spin now that the coaching carousel has stopped. So I think you can make the argument as to why he should stay. I think he's going to want out. I think the time's come, and I think they should let him go wherever he wants to go. Wherever they can work out a fair deal for everyone, they should let him go there.
2 things. I remember it was around August 10th that I sat down with Rodgers in Green Bay after one of his first practices back. And he said a couple of things in that interview. I will be where my feet are all season. You won't hear any clues from me about where I'm going, what I'm doing, because I'm going to take my time and I'm going to be with my team living for this moment, for these moments. That was the one thing. And the second thing he said is, I'm not sure what I'm going to do at all. And I'm not going to give people a chance to try to everybody speculate. You can speculate whatever you want. If you watch that thing last night, everything he said, I dare you to make a confident prediction what he's going to do. He can't. So I applaud Aaron Rodgers for this. This year, 2021, was about his team and this season. And we can argue about the one game he missed and being at fault for that.
Still got the 1 seed.
Yeah. But this was about this year being where his feet are, being a dedicated guy to the Packers, and he deserves a lot of credit for never, ever getting the train off the tracks. Everything was team, Packers, we're going to go as far as we can. Now, we can discuss his last 2 playoff games, which have been a little eyebrow-raising, both in Lambeau, both where they were heavily favored, and both that they lost. However, I don't think you can question his dedication to making this season all about him and not thinking about whether he's going to be in Invesco Field on Labor Day weekend or whenever next year. Now, Mike, one other thing I would say. I had a conversation with Nathaniel Hackett, the head coach of the Broncos. And I said, pretty fair, you have been linked as the team for Aaron Rodgers. What do you think of that? How much do you talk to him? Blah, blah, blah. And he said 2 sentences. I'm the coach of the Denver Broncos. Aaron's the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. As bizarre as this sounds, when he said that, I said, he thinks he's got a good chance to get Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't want to leave any little breadcrumbs on the trail for anybody to ever come back and said, ho, 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 tampering, tampering. But again, Mike, I'll tell you this. I was texting with Rob Domofsky, who I've become buddies with, the Packers guy, the Bob Domofsky, and I said, after watching last night, I said, I have absolutely no idea. And I don't think he does either, because Rodgers has done that on purpose.
Some things that I know, or at least I think I know, despite the things he said that were glowing as it relates to his relationship with GM Brian Gutekunst, it's still not where it needs to be. It may be better than it was, but it's still far below where it needs to be. I think he's going to want to go. The question is where, and teams that I'm watching are indeed the Broncos. The Steelers, although I don't think it's in their DNA to
they're not going to pay that much for him.
Right. Although, Peter, one reason why I'm intrigued by it, their local viewership in Pittsburgh was down 10% this year. Their ticket sales are down. Maybe they need to swing for the fences.
Maybe.
To try to generate some excitement. And
you know what the Steelers strike me as? 20th pick in the draft, which they have, for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
That makes more sense to me. But anyway, go ahead.
But I look at the Steelers, the Broncos, maybe the Raiders, although I think the Raiders are closer to the rebuild than the reload. The Buccaneers, if he's willing to follow Tom Brady, I don't know that he would be. I keep coming back to the 49ers with Aaron Rodgers as a 2-year bridge to Trey Lance. That gives Lance the 3 years that Rodgers had to sit, and now he can learn from Rodgers and get fully ready to go. The question is, what could the 49ers at this point give up? And would the Packers trade him to one of their rivals, even though they're not in the division?
No.
But what if Rodgers says, I want out and the only team I'll accept to trade to is the 49ers? What happens then?
I don't think that is what he's going to do. I think if he chooses the trade route, I think he's going to have multiple teams. Not 10, but 3 or 4. And Mike, here's why the Broncos make the most sense, okay? They've got Nathaniel Hackett. They've got a talented defensive team that Vic Fangio had playing very well. They've got some very good offensive players. And they can even afford, if need be, if the Packers say, we want 3 ones and Jerry Jeudy. I know people say, are you out of your mind? I would do that if I were the Broncos. 3 ones and Jerry Jeudy, because then you still have 3 good quality NFL receivers if Hamler comes up, and you've got a good running game. You still got your left tackle. You didn't have to trade him, and you're just missing your draft choices. But if Aaron Rodgers agrees to give the Broncos minimum 3 years, I'd make that trade in a second.
That's the other side of it, too. How much are you getting from Aaron Rodgers? How much will he commit to on the way?
He's got to commit to 3 years if you're going to make a huge trade for him.
It would have been better if he was just a free agent, but the problem is, and someone explained
if he what?
If he was just a free agent.
Yeah.
He can go wherever he wants. You don't have to deal with this. But because I said, hey, why didn't last year when he had the leverage, why didn't he insist on his contract expiring after 2021, not after 2022? And it was explained to me that the Packers want to be able to get something now. They don't want to wait for a compensatory pick. They want it now. The question is, how much are they going to get now? And there's got to be some concessions made by everyone, I think.
There's one other thing. A very, very smart player who happens to be a quarterback. I was asking him about the trade and what if you're the general manager of the Packers, what would you do? What if you get 3 ones and a good player, maybe a Pro Bowl type player? Would you do it? And he goes, not in a million years. I said, why? And he goes, because I saw Jordan Love play against Kansas City. And I would rather have a great chance for one more year and then no compensation in 2023 other than the third-round pick. I'd rather have that than throw Jordan Love to the Wolves this year.
Now, my belief is if they refuse to trade him, because they've already promised to trade him if he wants to be traded,
right,
verbally. And I remember saying at the time, that promise isn't worth the paper it's not written on.
Yeah.
Because it's completely unenforceable, and they can say, sorry,
right,
circumstances have changed. But he'll retire.
But he'll retire.
He'll retire.
Yeah,
and
he would retire.
I think what he would do, he'd pull the Brett Favre and unretire in July, put him in a corner where they have to put his salary cap number on the books. They probably wouldn't be in a position to do it. Remember, in 2008, the Packers just shrugged because they had more than $12 million in cap room. That was Favre's salary. They're like, fine, come back. We'll figure it out and we'll trade you. They'd be in a much tighter box if Aaron Rodgers unretires the way Favre did. But I don't think they want that. I'd like to think that everyone's going to be reasonable, and that if he wants out, when he wants out, they work out a deal. But where is the deck stacked in his favor like it was for Brady? That's a problem. And he's going to be compared to Brady and to Peyton Manning. You went from a team that was one seed back-to-back seasons, and you jumped to another team, and you barely made the playoffs or didn't make the playoffs or whatever may happen. I think he's going to make the playoffs. The question is he going to seriously pursue a championship?
You say he's going to make the playoffs. But not
if he goes to Denver.
I think he
guaranteed.
would. I think he will make the playoffs if he goes to Denver. But there's one big problem, and it's a multiple problem. It's called Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and then a cast of 10. What happens to Deshaun Watson? Does Mac Jones become the player that we think that he's got a good chance? What about Zach Wilson? What about Trevor Lawrence? And then what is going to happen in Baltimore, with Lamar Jackson? You could make an argument right now that there's 10 teams in the AFC. I added them up the other day. 10 teams that have a very good, potentially, quarterback situation. The kind that there's probably only like 3 in the NFC.
Well, and that's why if I were Aaron Rodgers, I wouldn't want to stay.
I understand what you're saying.
The Titans are the ones in the AFC that intrigue me the most because they were the 1 seed.
Well, the money is so awful, though.
Well, and with Ryan Tannehill, he's due to make $29 million, fully guaranteed. He's got a $28 million cap hit, even if they unload his full salary. It's not going to be easy to do. But if you got a chance to get Aaron Rodgers,
would be interesting? What would be really interesting? You'd have to really finagle the cap. How about a trade for Aaron Rodgers to Tennessee for Ryan Tannehill and 2 1s? Well, that solves a problem for the Packers,
right?
Because then they have a quarterback competition in camp, and it'd be great for them. But I still think the Broncos have the huge edge over anybody.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I had Travis Kelce earlier, and you're actually going to hear him coming up in a few minutes. I asked him, well, how do you feel about the possibility of having Aaron Rodgers to deal with? He said, let's bring it. It's great. I mean, the idea of having Mahomes and Herbert and Rodgers in the same division. We've been
even mention Herbert.
We've been begging for Mahomes versus Rodgers. Every time it's on the tee, it goes haywire.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get 2 a year if it happens in Denver.
Yeah, it'd be
amazing. It's great for football if it happens.
It'd be great if you get 6 of those over the next 3 years. And I've said for a long time that when this class of quarterbacks exits the NFL, and really Brady is about the last one. Okay, I don't really count Matt Ryan because he came in 2008, and Matthew Stafford in 2009. So I don't count them. But the old timers, Manning's gone. Both Mannings are gone. Roethlisberger now gone. Brady gone. Phillip Rivers gone. Everybody from the first 5 years of this century, with the exception of Aaron Rodgers. And so I kind of look at that and I say, as crazy as it sounds, the next golden era for quarterbacks, we might have to call that the platinum era for quarterbacks. It's so good.
Well, and it is amazing that we've had this intersection of the great older quarterbacks with the great young quarterbacks, but we keep getting more and more quarterbacks who can play at a really high level. It's going to be the story of the early part of the offseason when he makes a decision where he's going to go. And it was January 30 last year that Matthew Stafford was unofficially traded to the Rams. So these moves can start happening, and I do think that Rodgers is going to be the first domino, that none of these other moves are going to happen until everybody knows
it
where
sounds
to go.
close. It sounds like he's on the verge of making a decision.
Make a decision pretty quick, but then you have to implement it. That's the thing, too. That's where the drama becomes over the top. Because what if he says, I want to go to the 49ers, and they say no? What happens? I've looked around. I've looked at my options. I listened to Peter King. He said these AFC teams are pretty good, and I agree with him. What am I going to? I want to go to the 49ers. I want to go play for the team that I wanted to draft me in 2005. I want to finish my career where I wanted it to begin. I grew up rooting for that team. That's what I want to do. And well, without, if they say no, then we have a gift that keeps on giving all offseason long, because he would retire, and then I think he would unretire.
You sound like you're talking about the Jelly of the Month Club with Clark Griswold. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Well, it very well could be. All right.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.